In this video, we will cover Python command lines, syntax, semantics, and tokens. The absolute basics every serious learner must know before moving forward. So let's start with command lines. So command lines are the lines which are not to be executed or you don't want to show on the output screen. It is only for the reading purpose. Maybe you want to write a text for understanding purpose or you want to write a definition or something. So all these lines on my screen are comment lines. So to make a comment line, you're simply putting a hashtag behind any line and it becomes a comment line. And when I run, you see no output because the editor is not able to see or read these lines. So if in case you're doing any new topic, you want to write the definition of that in your code, so you're simply adding a hashtag behind it to make it a comment line. Move on to syntax. So syntax is nothing but the rule you need to follow while you're coding. So every topic you pick in programming has a specific rule which you need to follow. And if you're not following that rule, you're going to get errors. Now let's take an example of the print function. So the syntax of print is just type print and use the brackets. If in case you're using or printing a variable, you will write the variable name. And if it is a text, you will use your quotes. Now, what if I don't write the correct syntax of it? Maybe I don't use the brackets or I simply forgot closing the bracket. Now you see it is showing an error and it will not show you any output until you fix this syntax error. And it is also describing you that the error is that the bracket was not closed. Now, what if I don't put the brackets at all? In this case also it is going to give me the same error saying that it is missing parenthesis and it is also helping us with a hint that did you mean this. Now what if I put the brackets and forgot closing the quotes? I opened my quotes but I forgot closing it. So in that case also it will give me a syntax error telling that it was an unterminated string. So this is how syntax is important, and every topic will have a specific syntax. And once you learn all the syntaxes, then you will learn the whole coding. Now let's move on to semantics. So semantics is the meaning of the code. So let's understand semantics with an example where we have a variable x. I have assigned it a value of 25. Now I want to make this 25 a value which is a string value. So I'll just make it a text by adding the quotes. Now I want to add a value of 5 to this 25. So because 25 is stored inside the variable age, I'm simply adding 5 to it. But the problem here is the 25 is a text while I want to add 5 to it, which is an integer. So we can't add a text to an integer, right? So it doesn't make any sense. So let's see what happens when you run this code. It is giving you an error telling that the name age was not defined. Okay, so we have given the variable x here. So we'll simply add x to it, x plus 5. Now let's see what happens now. So it is again giving us an error saying that we can only concatenate, which is add a string to another string and not an integer. So this is what is called as semantics, that your code should have a meaning. And if it doesn't have any meaning, it is going to give you errors like this. Okay. So let's move on to the tokens and types of tokens now. So every Python program is made of tokens. They are the smallest building blocks of your code, and there are different types of tokens as well. So let's read the definition given in the slide. So it says token is the smallest unit of a program in any programming language, and it is also known as lexical unit. And these are the types of tokens: identifiers, keywords, punctuators, literals, and operators. So let us start with keywords. So keywords are the reserved words for specific functioning, which provides a special meaning to interpreter or the compiler. The keywords can't be used for any other purpose than the originally defined. Some of the keywords are displayed below. So in Python, keywords are the words which are predefined That means whenever you write some words, Python already understands the meaning of it. That means they are predefined. When I write print, it understands that I want to print something on the output screen, right? And if I write some other words, like I write, if you see it is turning into a color, and it will also understand that what I want to do with this word if. Then when I use the keyword for, it understands that it is supposed to be for a loop. So you see all these words are turning into colors. That means Python already understands what is the function of these words, and it automatically does the task. So that's what the definition says here, that it is for specific functioning which provides a special meaning to the interpreter or the compiler. So these are few keywords in Python which are, for a specific task. So they are predefined. That means whenever you type them, Python automatically understands what you want it to do, and it simply does the task. Okay, that's what the keywords are. Now, the second token we had was identifiers. So let us first look at the definition of identifiers. So it says an identifier is a name given to entities like variables, functions, classes, and etc. So we have only discussed about variables so far. We'll be discussing about functions and classes in our later videos. So it helps to differentiate one entity from another. So you might have seen that whenever you create a variable, you have a variable x equal to 25, or maybe you have a variable age as 25. Now you want to say that someone's age is 25. You want to use a print function for that. You want to say that there is someone called Alex is, instead of 25 you're writing age years old. Now, we never mentioned 25 here. We have only written age here. And when I run this code, it is giving me an output that Alex is 25 years old. So first of all, it is not giving us an error here whenever I use the variable age, because using the syntax of a variable, I have created a variable here. Now it understands that, this variable is holding the value 25. So whenever there is a variable used, I need to display its value. So it is able to identify this word, though it was not predefined. It is not a keyword, right? Still, it is able to identify it, and it easily able to display its value. So because it is able to identify it, it is called as an identifier. So this will happen the same with functions and classes also. So once you create a function, you give it a task, and it will automatically understand and does the task whenever you use their words or their names. Okay, but there are some rules you need to follow when you're declaring or creating a variable or an identifier mostly. So there are like four to five rules you need to follow when you're creating a variable. So first of all is a keyword cannot be used as an identifier. It will give you an error, and it has already a different meaning, right? The keywords already have a different meaning. So how can we use a keyword for a different task now? So that's the first rule, that you cannot use a keyword as a variable or as an identifier. An identifier must begin with an alphabet or an underscore. It can only start with, letters and underscore, and not with numbers. Subsequent letters may be numbers 0 or 0 to 9. That means you can have numbers in between and also at the end, but not in the beginning. Spaces and special symbols are not allowed except the underscore. So among all the symbols, you can only use an underscore in your variable or an identifier. So Python is case sensitive. So upper cases and lower cases are different, and length of an identifier is unlimited. So let us implement all these rules and see what happens if we don't follow these rules. Okay. So I have a variable if, and I want to assign it a value as 25. And now I want to use that variable in my print function. So I have used it as my variable name, and it is breaking that rule, right? So you see, it says it's an invalid syntax, though we are following the correct syntax of creating a variable. But we are not following the rule that we should not use a keyword. But the moment I make it a non-keyword, I add something to it. So it's non-keyword now, and now it will not show you any error and it will easily display its value. So this was the first rule, and the other rule I told you was we cannot have numbers in the beginning, right? So what if I replace that one in the beginning? Now it is again showing as an error that it was an invalid syntax. We can use numbers somewhere in between and also at the end, but not in the beginning. Then the next one was we can't use any symbols. So what if I want to use a full stop? So it is also going to give as an error because it's a symbol. So you see, it is giving us an error because we have used a symbol here. And instead of this, if I simply use an underscore here, it will allow me because only underscore is one of the symbols which is allowed in your variable. Okay, you see now it works. Now, other variables, other rules were uppercases and lower cases are different. So here, if is starting with uppercase and here it is starting with a lowercase, and it will still not identify it, and it says that it was not defined because they both are treated differently. So this variable is created but it has not been used. So that's why it is showing an error. And you can have unlimited length of your variable, so you can use as big name as possible for your variable or an identifier. So these are few rules you need to remember when you're declaring an identifier. So we are done with identifiers, keywords, and next comes the literals. So literals are nothing but the values you assign to a variable. So maybe you have a variable x and its value is Rahul. So because Rahul is a value or a data which has been stored inside this variable, it is called as a literal. Comes the punctuators. So with the name itself, you can understand that punctuators are nothing but like the punctuations used in your code, right? So when you type something, maybe when you type a print function, you have brackets, and when you're creating a variable, you have an assignment operator, and in the if condition, you have colon. So all these symbols you're using is called as a punctuator, and I will create a separate video on explaining operators because it's a lengthy topic and we have different types of operators. So this video will go very lengthy, so I will create a separate video on operators. Now all these tokens together make our code, right? It says that it is the smallest unit of our program in any programming language. So as I've told that maybe in your code you have a variable where you have a value given, then you want to use it in your print function, and then you want to use an if condition as well. So here this is a variable which is an identifier, this is a punctuator, this is a literal, and this is a keyword, and then these are punctuators again, and then if condition will again have a colon, and maybe you might use operators as well to compare or do some operations. So all these tokens together make your program in any programming language. So these are the tokens. Okay, so most beginners fail not because Python is hard, but because they don't understand how to structure a code using all these topics like syntax, tokens, semantics. So once you understand all these topics, you will have less error in your code. The advanced topics will feel simpler to you and your logic will be clear. So in next video, we'll apply all these basics to real decision making using if else, loops, and problem solving questions. If this helped, subscribe and keep learning smart, not blindly.